Hello, War of the Ring players. It's Bihali back with my experience in the 2025 War of the Ring World Tournament. This is the second match of the round of 128 between me and size 16s, who graciously agreed to let me do casts of these games. Thank you again to size 16s, who, as I mentioned in the first video, is also a Twitch streamer. I'll put in the description where you can find size 16's channels. Um, but without further ado, let's jump in. First game I played Shadow. Second game I'm of course playing Free People. We did no balancing as per the tournament rules. If we get to a third game, we'll do bidding at that time. But this is just standard, no adjustment base. So we start here with the red arrow and file. Pretty happy to see those cards. I mean, anytime you start with a scouts, that's great. Um, and starting with a playable character card that I can get cycles with if I roll Palantirs. It's great to have strategy cards that you can cycle as the Free People's player, especially one that also includes a draw like King Brand or Thranduil or what have you. But happy to have a playable card, and Scouts, of course, in the early game as Free People is quite valuable if you're defending Old Forest Road or Fords of Eisen or anywhere that Shadow is likely to put pressure on. And having a retreat back into a stronghold would be valuable. So let's jump right in. My opponent adds two eyes, one eye to the allocates an eye and then rolls two more. And I roll, a decent roll. I against three eyes. I probably don't want three movement, although I do want to kill Gandalf. Um, I don't want to be getting revealed into Moria. So I assume that with this roll, I'm going to be cycling file, moving once. Certainly, my opponent's um, going to be getting Saruman to war, and then bringing Saruman into play. Um, so killing Gandalf, of course, is a priority because there will be a minion in play. So yep, I go ahead and cycle. Um, Accidentally draw a character card for Shadow. You can tell what I've been playing a lot of recently. Drawn to Ents, not a super valuable card at this point in the game. I go ahead and advance the elves once. My opponent shuffles some armies. I try to take my turn before it's my turn. Very rude. Okay, opponent shuffles in Mordor, and I go ahead and move. And I'm reserving that additional muster just in case I get hit and revealed and want to lose. I would almost certainly lose Gandalf as long as it's not a 0R, knowing that Saruman's coming into play. So I'm holding that muster just in case I need to reveal or need to flip the Fellowship back to unrevealed with Strider's ability. But I'm not hit, so that gets invested in moving the elves closer to war. On to round two. Wisdom of Malround, always happy to see that in this context that also makes the red arrow playable. Gondor needs to be active. I could activate Gondor with Wisdom of Elrond, and I roll two Palantirs, so maybe that's exactly what I do. It's been a few months since I've played this match, so I don't honestly really remember what happened. So you're getting my current takes on my past moves. Ideally, I'll agree with what I did back then, but never guaranteed. Okay, so opponent gets Sauron to war, makes sense. Moves their Mordor armies. Um, Appears to be going for Gondor. Uh, yeah. I mean, seeing what I have, that would make sense. You know that I'm probably going to be trying to kill Gandalf here, so I'm going to move with one of those wills right now, almost certainly. Um, and then save one of the Palantirs in case I need to ring move. There's an argument to be made for just playing Wisdom of Elrond here, but do you really want to do that? Because then you would give your opponent the opportunity to get the Witch King this turn if they attack into Osgiliath, and then if you do have to ring move, then they can use that ring with their two attacks plus their Palantir. They could fully put Minas Tirith under siege without me getting to muster into it, although maybe I would use the scouts there. This is pretty interesting. There's actually a lot of variability in what I could do here. I'm guessing I just prioritize Gandalf, though. Yeah, so I move, I get hit, I draw one, I kill Gandalf. Great. Okay. So um, then all that ringed talk goes out the window. My opponent moves towards South Philian. Um, that's good. Uh, and so I have these two Palantirs. I'm no longer cycling with those Palantirs because Gandalf is dead. Um, what am I likely to do here? I'm guessing I don't use Wisdom of Elrond, um, because I don't want to give my opponent the Witch King. I don't know what their cards are, but I have to assume they don't have um, Ringwraiths, the one card that would let them put Minas Tirith under siege and do a second attack into Gondor to get them fully to war, so that they could use that muster to bring the Witch King into play. So yeah, I'm guessing I just um, bring in Gandalf here, and then after Osgiliath gets attacked, that's a good question. Would you just use Confusion here or use the Scouts? Because if Gondor gets attacked, then the Scouts becomes playable, and that's a great card, right? Like being able to muster an elite and a leader and move Rohan down the track with a Palantir dice is pretty good. So okay, well I guess let's see what I do. Yep, I bring Gandalf in. My opponent plays Hill Trolls, buffs up the army outside, and I draw. Okay, fine. And then they attack Osgiliath, sure. And I do play my scouts. Okay. Um, what do I do? What would you do here? Huh. Do you go just back into Minas Tirith? My opponent doesn't have a another attack. I know they can't put Minas Tirith under siege, so I could just retreat into Minas Tirith, or I could move to North Ithilien. But am I really going to play Wisdom of Elrond to bring Gondor to war and let my opponent get the Witch King? Although I guess if I retreat to North Ithilien, play Wisdom of Elrond, I'm kind of forcing my opponent to muster into Minas Morgul, unless they want to give me a cheap 2 victory points. And given how early in the game is, do you really want to be giving up a cheap 2 victory points to free people? We'll see what I do. Okay, so I do retreat to North Ithilien. I do play Wisdom of Elrond. And okay, great. So my opponent could have gotten the Witch King there. This is maybe more of a conservative play. I think there are more aggressive Shadow players who would have just gone for the Witch King there and then planned to blow up Minas Tirith. But I mean, once you give up those 2 easy victory points um, as Shadow, you do kind of have to watch your back the rest of the game, and be really careful and judicious in your dice management. And then just one bad roll can lose you the game if you've already given up 2 free victory points. So um, interesting. I've given so the sequencing there. I've given myself the opportunity to muster in Minas Tirith without giving away an earlier Witch King to my opponent. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. Another Scouts. Love to see that. And I have 2 Ents cards. That's pretty interesting. House of the Stewards probably not going to be relevant. Um, Possible that I separate Strider and Boromir at some point, but probably not. Especially given that Minas Tirith is already going to be under siege. Okay, so my opponent, kind of probably frustrating to not see any A or H dice here as Shadow. You certainly want to be trying to do like a pincer move against the elves or something like that, and threaten um, 2 strongholds simultaneously. Especially because I only rolled 1 muster here. Yeah. What are you? So you know that the Free People's player is going to be mustering into Minas Tirith with that mustard die as well. So you basically, yeah, some more attacks for your shadow would be really nice because you could um, get into a place of threatening Lorien and Woodland Realm theoretically without the threat of uh, Free People actually being able to muster because you know that muster is spoken for. Yeah, so okay, the muster in Minas Tirith, that makes a lot of sense. Of course, they'll attack Minas Tirith. Also makes sense. I expect Fellowship probably moves here. Yeah, Fellowship moves is missed. That's great because that's the move. That's the 3rd move, so that's the move that would have gone over Moria. Great to not be revealed there. That's almost certainly going to be Witch King. Yep. And so I'm imagining my opponent's going to be doing some cycling here. So I draw a strategy card in anticipation of being attacked in Minas Tirith. Yep, they do attack in Minas Tirith. Play a strategy card. I play a strategy card back. Probably Kindred. Now, there's an argument to be made if I think they're just going to lead with like a swarm of bats here, which wouldn't be unreasonable given, there's 7 hit points that they've got to grind down. If I think they're going to lead with a swarm of bats, maybe a sudden strike makes sense just to soak the swarm of bats effect. But Anyway, I guess we'll see what happens. Okay, so I play Kindred, and they play Relentless Assault. That's a good defensive card for that card play. And they do go ahead and forfeit two. Okay, so they're hitting on fives. This is kind of a little bit dangerous. Not dangerous for like that the Witch King is going to die, but just like there's a real possibility that this siege is sort of broken in the first round here because they hit on five, sure. So their expectation is about two hits, but my expectation is also, or their expectation is about two, just under two hits, and my expectation is exactly two hits. Um, so okay, so they only get one, and I get three. Yeah, so this siege is basically they are going to have to reinforce it at this point. Those relentless assaults are really good against if you've got 10 units, or 10 hit points or something up in like Woodland Realm, and the number of dice being rolled back are minimal and can't do that much damage to you. But yeah, in the case where your opponent is rolling all five combat dice plus some leadership, there's a not insignificant probability that they do a bunch of damage back. And if you've already done two hits to yourself, that army can disappear really, really quickly. Yeah, so I'm guessing I would move again. Didn't move again. I drew a card. Why not? Do I really think the Shadow's going to attack again? Not sure. That. Why wouldn't I hold that Palantir to potentially hide if I move a second time here and then need to hide? I'm not sure I agree with that. Yeah, so I move, I do get hit. Okay, it's a two, it's not a reveal. But if that had been a reveal, I would have wanted that Palantir, and it wasn't like urgent to draw a strategy card there because my opponent is almost certainly not attacking again in Minas Tirith. Strange. All right, so they use that sea dice because they're not attacking in Minas Tirith to play She Loves Lair. Fine. We both have a special tile in the pool now. And also I overfilled my hand significantly by drawing with that Palantir. Although maybe it's fine, right? Like House of the Stewards easily discarded. Path of the Woes is easily discarded. Um, Path of the Woes is one of those cards where it's actually almost better to discard it than play it because then your opponent still has to play around it because they haven't seen it come out. And its combat effect is so somewhat worthless. Like discarding it is in many ways it's sort of like using Day Without Dawn to remove a power too great or something like that. Like your opponent still has to play around that card. Um, and you still in the Day Without Dawn at least you got some use out of it, but in this case I'm not going to get use out of it, but it's an easy card to throw away. I'm guessing that's what I get rid of. Yeah, so I discard Path of the Woses and one of my scouts. Why would I do that? Why would I discard my scouts instead of House of the Stewards? That's probably a mistake. Interesting. Okay. Nope, I probably should have done something different there. Okay, so I go ahead and move the Fellowship with my first action of turn 4. My opponent brings the Southrons and Easterlings to war. Yeah, I mean, always feels bad using an H dice as a muster instead of for an attack, but they probably want to, even if you don't have Corsairs here, you probably want to threaten it. Like, you can see with these 5 attacks, you could very easily get to a place where Woodland Realm is under threat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they've got 5 attacks. So you could move that Morannon army all the way up to Old Forest Road. I'm not going to be able to block it. And you can shuffle over to Umbar with your Southrons and Easterlings and force me to spend those 2 musters in Dol Amroth so that you get a chance to put Woodland Realm under siege without me mustering into it at all. Let's see if that's what happens. Opponent thinks about which dice. Okay, so maybe that is exactly what they're doing. So yeah, because they're now the Southrons and Easterlings are 1 move away from Umbar, I have to react as if they're going to play Corsairs here. I don't remember if they had it or not, but Shadows Gather. Oh, okay, interesting. All right. So they Shadows Gather that Southrons and Easterlings army up to Minas Tirith. Yeah, I mean they couldn't. They probably would have preferred to use the army that came out of Morannon for that, but they are now that army is blocked from doing that by that retreat into that scouts into North Ithilien. So maybe another side benefit of uh, retreating there instead of retreating back into Minas Tirith. Interesting. Small decisions can have large impacts on this game. Okay, I move. I get revealed on my 6th step. Fine, it's gonna happen at some point. Take my 1 damage. Lure gets played. My opponent draws a tile. That's incorrect. They're supposed to just draw a. Okay, we're talking about it in the chat. There's okay. So they draw a hobbit. My hobbit pops out. Fine. I play King Brandsman here. Is that good? Why am I not just hiding? I guess they don't have any way to do any more damage to the Fellowship. No Palantirs or no Seas. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me think through this a little bit. I probably Pelargir is lost, and so you've always got to ask yourself, where is my opponent going to get their 10 victory points from? Minas Tirith, Pelargir, certainly. Um, Maybe that army in Minas Tirith ends up staying healthy enough to go on to Dol Amroth or go on to Rohan. Um, so if that's the case, it's always good to protect your cities if you can. They're probably going to attack. I probably don't want to play this King Brandsman for its shield wall effect, even though that's a very good effect. So I'm taking the opportunity here to draw another strategy card that I can potentially use in defense of Minas Tirith, while also getting this muster of 2 units into Dale, which can help defend the Dew line. That's probably the rationale there. Oh, and I draw into Immerhill. That's very nice. I recruited Gondor. Oh, I accidentally put 2 Gondor regulars up in Dale rather than 2 North regulars. So my opponent attacks Minas Tirith as expected. Why do I play? I play no card. I guess my only playable card is Immerhill. And do I really need the text ability of Immerhill, though? I have another muster. I can just muster into Dol Amroth again. And that army that would have been the Corsairs army is now gone and up in Minas Tirith. I feel like I probably should have played Immerhill here. Wow, they lead with Onslaught. And wow, and I roll 5 hits back. Okay. That's a tough position to be in as Shadow. You are now down to 11. They were at 15 hit points. They're dropped to 11. Do you really want to be doing a big onslaught here? They do 3. Okay. Yeah, I guess 3 still leaves them with a reasonable army. They only roll 1 hit. So now it's 4 HP worth of free people and 8 HP worth of shadow. Not a terrible spot to be in as free people in this siege. So they press, draw. Okay, and so I definitely do play Immerhill here. I guess maybe I was assuming that Minas Tirith was just going to fall, given the 15 HP army parked on top of it. But now, given how much damage both I have done to it with my rolls and my opponent has done to it with the onslaught, with taking 3 onslaughts, it's now worth playing cards in my mind to defend Minas Tirith. So yeah, I put my shield wall out. They play a Deadly Strife, and go ahead and roll 5 hits. So that shield wall does nothing. So in theory, if Deadly Strife had done the expected 3.75 hits instead of 5 hits, that extends. I do 4 damage back, and that might extend the siege. I might have to use another attack dice. Yeah. So okay, so that was probably a good card play by me. It just didn't work out. And Deadly Strifes win games. And so that I use that muster to hide the Fellowship. Sure, fine. They're attacking North Athelion. Okay, so yet another benefit of having that army retreated into North Athelion instead of back into Minas Tirith. It's the goal of free people is to reduce the action dice economy of Shadow in terms of like the efficacy of those attacks as much as possible, right? Like, if you're Shadow, you want your attacks to be getting you victory points. In this case, this attack that my opponent is doing is not about gaining victory points necessarily. It is uh, about eliminating this pesky army in North Athelion that could cause problems for Shadow in the future if not addressed. So that is now the 3rd benefit of that army retreating to North Athelion instead of back into Minas Tirith. Maybe notes for myself about. And also just for Shadow, if you're leaving Minas Morgul to attack uh, the Gondor nation, and you don't have the Morannon army in North Athelion while the Minas Morgul army is moving to South Athelion, maybe that Minas Morgul army should be going to North Athelion. Because if if that army had been in, if the Shadow Army that attacked Osgiliath had been attacking out of North Athelion instead of South Athelion, and I'd retreated to South Athelion, it wouldn't have shut off the Shadows Gather play that my opponent probably wanted to do with that Morannon army. So maybe just a slight inaccuracy there. Anyway, okay, so I get attacked and I don't die. Okay, so somehow I managed to only take one hit against 7 dice. Roll one back, and my opponent presses, and I retreat into Osgiliath. Sure. Um, maybe uh, maybe Eastern Emmanuel would have been more interesting, but I think in this case, like Osgiliath, that army has already done enough to be a menace. Moving into Osgiliath, they still sort of are now forced to attack it again. Um, uh, and if that army lives, it can potentially retreat into Pelargir and continue to just be a thorn in the side. I guess we'll see what happens. Draw Wizard Staff. Wow, and Faramir. That is some serious timing of drawing Faramir, having just been lucky to survive and retreated into Osgiliath. Yeah, so I ditch Wizard Staff. Truly one of the worst cards in base game, but one of the best ones in Lords. Maybe I'll do some Lords content in the coming weeks. So I have to assume my opponent has Day Without Dawn, so I'm going to use my will first to play Faramir. Yeah, sure. Get 3 HP in Osgiliath and try to do some damage to do no damage, but try to do some damage to the army in North Athelion. And I'm guessing my opponent is going to just immediately try to eliminate that Osgiliath threat. Yeah, so they attack from North Athelion and no card. Sure. I mean, this is the benefit of now. I now have 3 HP, and I'm in a fortification, so that's okay. And my opponent rolls 4 6s. So the idea behind Faramir there was good. In practice, it didn't matter. Oh, but I rolled 2 hits back. That's good, I guess. That army uh, certainly is no longer big enough to take Dol Amroth, so that's good. So I go ahead and move, fine, and get hit. Take another one. Okay, so this is interesting. This has been a lot of ones, and I'm obviously not going to take a random while I still have Strider and the Fellowship to ones if I can avoid it. But corruption is really starting to creep up here. I mean, my effective corruption is still quite low, but my actual corruption is now at 5, um, which isn't insignificant. So my opponent musters an elite South Round and Easterling down in Harad. Yeah, so look, maybe still planning to go after Dol Amroth. I move again. I am hit 3 times, and my opponent draws an eye. So that is a 3 reveal. That's not great. I now feel like I have to take a random. That's correct. I don't want to be going up to 8 corruption. If I lose Strider there, that would be unfortunate, but efficient. So I go ahead and lose Gimli, take the 1 corruption. I'm now up to 6. So I'm still at effective -2, but corruption is getting a little bit high. Another muster and a near Harad. I hide with the sea dice. I guess I am not planning to move again. Clearly, didn't want to move again this turn, given how high corruption is becoming, and with almost guaranteed to be hit if I'd moved again. So my opponent groups up, yeah, and I go ahead and muster and Lossernach again just to soak an attack. Right, that Lossernach army is just there to force Shadow to attack. Right, if I don't muster there, what you probably see is Shadow using a half move from that A dice to move into Lossernach from Osgiliath, and then moving the rest of the Osgiliath army into the West Harandor stack, and then using that sea dice to attack Pelargir, and have that side of Gondor all nice and cleaned up in a large stack sitting in Pelargir. As such, I'm going to, this basically costs them half a move, which can be the difference between winning and losing a game. So, yep, they attack Lossernach. They cycle Nazgul Search. With the Fellowship still out and about, wouldn't Nazgul Search be just a good card to keep? Guess I don't know what their hand is. Maybe they're just looking for cool weather. That also makes sense, right? Like, um, them cycling Nazgul Search here basically tells me they don't have cruel weather. Because if you did, you wouldn't be cycling a card like that. I get a hit. Yeah, that army dies as predicted. Um, and attack Pell and play another. Yeah, Wormtongue. Wormtongue is a very reasonable card to just cycle in any random battle, and they don't get a hit. That is unlikely. Press and I retreat back to Lamadon, and we move on to turn 6. Great. So let's see, what have I got here? Why am I still holding House of the Stewards? It's still bothering me that I discarded a Scouts, which would have been useful at multiple points. Like in North Athelion, that Scouts would have been useful, and Osgiliath, that Scouts would have been useful. Right now, to retreat from Lamadon into Dol Amroth, that Scouts would have been useful. And yet I kept House of the Stewards. What was I thinking? And I still don't discard House of the Stewards. I just what? And I discard an advantageous position in favor of keeping House of the Stewards. What am I doing? All right, whatever. Okay, this is a bit of a bummer. I do not roll enough moves to get into Mordor without using a ring. But at least I rolled one move. So as long as my opponent does not have Cruel Weather, I can get in this turn. And actually, as discussed in the previous turn, like that cycling of Nazgul Surge told me they probably don't have Cruel Weather in their hand, but they could have cycled into it. They just cycled twice and then drew another card. So they just pulled 3 more cards out of what was a 19 card deck. So um, they're not quite halfway through the Shadow card deck, but that was good cycling last turn to potentially get to Cruel Weather. So maybe they've got it now. Okay, so I draw an eye, take 1 damage. Again, here, that's another. Corruption continues to creep up. Okay. Uh, okay. So they park that regular on North Athelion, which also tells me they don't have Cruel Weather. If you have Cruel Weather here, you want your opponent to ring move and not be revealed. Ideally, not hit at all. What's a hunt look like right now? Yeah, so probably gonna get hit. You definitely make it more likely by putting a reroll on it. And if they get hit, you've got a 4 and 9 chance of not revealing them. And if you've got Cruel Weather, that's what you want. You want a non-reveal here. So ideally, you want to miss because the missing and guaranteeing that you don't reveal them into Minas Morgul uh, gets Shadow a whole extra turn to go try to win militarily. Um, that's interesting. Why rush that? I didn't need to rush that. I think that's probably a mistake. I should have held that H dice. If they attack, if they attack an Alamadon, sure, go ahead and muster into Dol Amroth, but there's no reason to rush that. Now, I've definitely just opened myself up to the army in like here Dol Guldur with those 4 attacks that are showing going 1, 2, 3, 4, and because I want to use a ring to move into Mordor, and knowing that I'm going to use a ring, that's actually 5 attacks that my opponent has. So you could go 1, 2, 3, attack Edoras, take it, and then besiege Helm's Deep, and then use a little bit of an army from Orthanc to come clean it up. That's a pretty big mistake by me. And again, if I use this H dice to move into Western Net, wouldn't it be great to have a Scouts in case my opponent does do that? Whoa. Weird. Such a bizarre choice. Okay. But okay, so this is probably a mistake by my opponent. They attack Lamadon. Okay, so let's have a little bit of an aside here. One of the things that I think separates really great Shadow players from good to like really good Shadow players is uh, having sort of total vision of the board at all times. I think people who uh, maybe don't have as much experience playing Shadow, they tend to fixate on the region that they're attacking. In this case, I don't think I even have any. Yeah, so okay, so I don't even have any elites left. Like Dol Amroth is not getting any stronger. There's no urgency. There's no rush um, to put Dol Amroth under siege here. Far better to cross pressure my dice and make me choose between, for example, defending Helm's Deep or getting into Mordor this turn. And I'm almost certainly going to choose getting into Mordor this turn. So you essentially give yourself a free Helm's Deep and a free 2 points. But yeah, going. I mean, I guess I've played Imrahil, so you know that Dol Amroth isn't going to get any. Um, like you, yeah. Me having played Imrahil is just another reason that you don't really need to pressure it. Hmm. Yeah, I think this is probably a minor inaccuracy by um my opponent. And then they cycle Black Captain. Yeah, I guess probably still looking. This tells me that they're still looking for cruel weather. That's a any Palantir attacks are great. Uh, so cycling one means that they're definitely actively looking for cool weather. Maybe that. Okay, so okay, let's give my opponent the like. Let's give them some benefit of the doubt here. Choosing to go towards Dol Amroth gives them an opportunity to cycle some more character cards, as opposed to the route that I mentioned of like going and trying to take Helm's Deep. So not an unreasonable thing to do. If you are hunting for cruel weather, but I'm you know I'm not sure getting cruel weather here. Like yeah, it gets you an extra turn, but isn't a free Helm's Deep just the equivalent of an extra turn? And then, but you know you can get a free Helm's Deep, um, rather than hoping you get an extra turn by cycling into cruel weather. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of the ways you can do this, but I think it's probably better to use that Double Door army to just make a beeline for Helm's Deep or Woodland Realm, and put maybe not Woodland Realm, not Woodland Realm, Helm's Deep. If you do Woodland Realm, you put the Elves to war, and then Círdan Ships becomes viable in Dol Amroth, and then you would need to hurry up with Dol Amroth. So yeah, I think my original instinct of Helm's Deep is correct here. Okay, so sorry, that was a long aside. Lamadon gets beat up. I hide the Fellowship. Um, Importantly, hiding the Fellowship here, uh, not with my like second to last die, hiding the Fellowship with my third to last die. So in case my opponent has like Orc Patrol or something, or Isildur's Bane, excuse me, I'm not at risk of them drawing a reveal tile, and me not having an extra dice or an extra die to hide again and then move. So I'm probably planning to move in my second to last Palantir here. So they attack into DA, sure. Yep, and I just go ahead and move. I'm hit once, I draw three, and I just take Strider as a casualty. Yeah, that's probably right. I still have 2 rings left. Corruption's creeping up. I really need to be efficient. Like, it would be pretty bad if I took a random there and pulled the Hobbit, was at 9 corruption, and then Candles of Corpses or Isildur could just outright kill me. So yeah, taking Strider there is probably right. And my opponent had a new Powers Rising. Okay, my opponent definitely should have gone for Helm's Deep here. Um, if they were if they had a new Powers Rising, and we know they had it because they've only cycled character cards, so uh, it's possible they just drew it at the start of this turn. But when it was clear that what my dice were going to be used for, uh, and that I didn't really have an ability to defend Helm's Deep, that they're probably maybe they are putting pressure on Helm's Deep. Maybe they're just going to go straight into Ford's Advisor. No, they cycle more cycling an MT, and playing a strategy card. So if you spent all that time cycling C cards, did they find Cruel Weather already? Is that what we're about to see? That the fact that they've now switched to cycling strategy cards tells me would seem to indicate to me that they drew Cruel Weather. So I guess we'll see what happens. They just play a Deadly Strife and wow, rolled 0 hits on the combat roll, but then got 4 on the reroll. I was probably very excited when I saw that combat roll, but yeah, back up to number of hit expectations on that reroll, and I get 5 back. Sure, probably doesn't matter though. I mean, Dol Amroth is pretty cooked here, especially because Imrahil has been played for its combat, and they stop. Yeah, and sure, why not? Right, like stopping here. If you're worried about the health of your army and you don't have that, like you don't have good cards, you feel happy about playing here. Círdan's not playable, and Imrahil's gone, so why not stop and be a little patient? Um, oh, that is why. Maybe don't stop and be a little patient. There are 3 cards that could have changed the composition of this siege. Círdan, which they know is not playable, Imrahil, which they know has already been played, and Spirit of Mordor, which I had. So that's a bit of a bummer if you're Shadow here. But I only rolled 1 hit. Okay. Like if that had been 3, that would have been a big deal. It being only 1 probably doesn't, Dol Amroth is probably still cooked. Arc Patrol. Interesting. Okay, so I guess my opponent was doing all that cycling in search of cruel weather. They decided not to cycle Orc Patrol here in Dol Amroth because they wanted to have something that could potentially reveal the Fellowship into Minas Morgul. But if that's what you ended up doing, why not just keep? How many eyes are in that? 2. Yeah, this is a good play. This is a good play. Uh, if you get a, the fellowship is under pretty significant corruption pressure. There are one, two, three. There are 3 tiles out of 8 that would reveal me. That's and they draw an eye. That's unfortunate. So yeah, that would have been big. Like if Shadow draws a 2R or 0R there and then pulls, a non-eye with the Minas Morgul tile, the Fellowship is in pretty dire straits. They're already not in great shape, right? Like at effective 2 corruption. But if that had been 2 more tiles out of the pool uh, for the Mordor run, making eyes more likely in Mordor, um, and had done damage to the Fellowship, that would have been pretty crippling. Yeah, and I say that could have been bad. Yeah, that could have been really bad. Okay, so I draw Power 2 Great in the Gray Company. For everybody who's been keeping track since whatever turn 3, it is now turn 7. I'm still holding on to House of the Stewards. I will never understand that decision. Okay, so my opponent draws a lot of Palantirs. Mm, maybe you just go, given this role in the State of the Fellowship, maybe you just pivot to full corruption here. I mean, yeah, you can get to 5 victory points by battering down Dol Amroth, but are you really going to get to 10 before I dunk the ring? I mean, yeah, that pool's not great, but it's not terrible. If I don't hit, if I miss Shelob or right, there's only one eye in the box, so if I hit an eye, moving right now, the Fellowship, like, I guess it's probably going to take me 3 turns to dunk. Since I only rolled 1 movement here, and I have the 2 rings, it's probably going to take the Fellowship 3 turns to dunk. So as Shadow, you still have 2 turns to try to win militarily. But yeah, are you really going to get there? Are you really going to get to 10 victory points in the next 2 turns? That's only 3 attacks. You've spent one of your Palantir attacks in the form of Black Captain as a cycle. I guess you've got a ring already, and I'm going to be spending them pretty aggressively to try to dunk. So yeah, Woodland Realm is still wide open. Helm's Deep is still wide open. Okay, so maybe you don't do a full corruption pivot. I guess it depends on the cards. It always depends on the cards. I go ahead and play Elven Cloaks. My opponent plays Ring as mine. Okay, so now the pool is getting a little more interesting. There's now an additional blue tile and an additional red tile. And I say, all right, now I just need to find that -2 instead of every red, but I suspect it will be the every red option. Yeah, um, that is sometimes the way of the game. So I move. I get a 3. Fine. Pretty honestly, pretty happy to see that. My opponent hasn't played Isildur yet, and I really don't need him pulling an Isildur 3. Also, this is a non-reveal, so and I'm happy to move again this turn because that only put a second die in the box. So even an eye here on a second move is fine. I would just lose Legolas to it. Yeah, I take an extra corruption because it's a 3, but the non-reveal is great. That also gives me the opportunity to potentially dunk in uh, next turn. All right, so my opponent gets the mouth, and yeah, yeah. So I move to defend Helm's Deep. I mean, there were 2 different opportunities last turn where my opponent could have gotten a cheap Helm's Deep, and now it seems like they won't. Uh, I guess you could force me to use a ring by charging out of Orthanc and seeing what I do if I'm going to bring that army in to defend Western Like, making me use a ring here to defend Helm's Deep would be great, because then I'm not using that ring to move when I clearly want to be moving this turn. Candles. Yeah, this is a good time to play candles. Obviously, uh, I'm trying to get rid of all those companions at this point, specifically to avoid this card and to make the 0 reveals that still exist in the pool here much friendlier tiles to hit. So yeah, that's not and 2 hits. Okay, yeah, that it's looking pretty bad for the Fellowship. This is, I mean, 10 corruption, effective 7, but being parked at 10 corruption is not very good. Yeah, okay, so my opponent attacks TA again. I really think this is a mistake. I think that should have been a move out of Orthanc into Fords. Um, and probably the army and Dolguldur up towards the Dew line to take Woodland Realm, and then you have another. Uh, you still have that muster so that you could use the mouth to get into um, Old Forest Road, so that the North doesn't become involved in the defense of the Dew line. Um, and then you can pressure, and then you still haven't put the elves all the way to war, so Círdan still isn't turned on. There's no rush. If I use that muster to move the elves to war, yeah, sure, kill Dol Amroth. But if I don't, um, I don't think there's any rush to attack Dol Amroth. I think you could be cross pressuring the Fellowship rings, which would be a pretty critical thing to do at this point in the game. Okay. Or I mean, they want to cycle move kill. Fine. Maybe they don't have any other playable cards, but still, uh, I think pressuring the Fellowship rings here is probably the right move. Okay, so my opponent rolls. Yeah, they roll 3 hits, so they take Dolamoth, which is good. They're now up to 5. Um, I draw a character card. Almost certainly. I mean, I'm looking for healing, right? Like I need healing pretty badly. And they move, yeah. So they move from South Dunland. From North Dunland to South Dunland. They're like getting an army all together. This should just be a move to Ford's Bison. That like, sure, like I've had a lot of time to draw ents, and I do have a bunch of ents. But like the goal of the game is not keep Saruman alive. The goal of the game is to win, like to get victory points. And losing Saruman doesn't cost you victory points. Yeah, it costs you 1 dice next turn, but then you probably win next turn. Or at least that like if I can't use a ring to move again here, you can be very confident that I'm not dunking next turn. Yeah, and I muster. Why not? I mean, I muster Rohan. I feel like I should have moved there. That feels like a mistake. That should be a ring move. Why did I think mustering Rohan was important there? Yeah, I don't agree with that. That should have been a ring move. Interesting. Okay. So, I'm over here talking about my opponent's play, and I've made a bunch of mistakes myself that I'm, in looking back, pretty obvious errors. Because yeah, there were only 2. Even if I take an eye there, like it's fine. I mean, it's not fine. It's not great, but it's who knows how many eyes my opponent is going to roll this turn. Like, and it probably makes sense for my opponent to just allocate 2 eyes. So if you hit an eye on this move this turn, yeah, they allocate 2 eyes. So that was predictable, right? Like I should have just moved against those 2 dice in the box last turn, knowing that it's going to be as bad or worse this turn. And I only roll 1 move, and so I really should have ring moved last turn. But I do roll 2 H's, which is great because I can now fully defend Helm's Deep. And you know, I should not have been able. I should not have been in a position to defend Helm's Deep this game. But here we are. So my opponent moves into Westamnet, and they move down from Gap of Row. Oh, and I drew. Oh, that's pretty nice. So I drew Riders of Theoden. That's great. Um, Helm's Deep is in better shape than, given that it is defended, Helm's Deep is now going to probably be a pretty enormous pain. I have 2 Daring Defiances, I have 2 Ents cards, and I have Riders of Theoden, so I can reinforce it. And, you know, they probably can't take, even if they bring a massive stack, with 2 Daring Defiances and 2 Ents, I've got a pretty good shot of holding on. I guess we'll see what happens. Okay, so I move, and I hit a red eye. Okay. Yeah, that's GG. My chances were very bad. Now they're about 0.1%. Yeah, I mean, maybe a bit hyperbolic, but also maybe accurate. I am now at effective 9 corruption on step 1, and revealed, and probably about to lose some more strongholds. I need the next tile to be a -2. Yeah, I really do. So my opponent moves into Ford's Vizin. Yeah, so they gather up in Ford's Vizin. I mean, they're Helm's Deep is cooked. The question is it's just a question of how many rounds does it take. Okay, so my opponent, I haven't. So my opponent takes Edoras and fold. This is probably a mistake. Every watching this, every instinct that I have as a player watching this right now is I'm definitely going to attack the mouth, right? Like I have, maybe I take 3 hits, but I have riders to reinforce. Um, and I'd rather kill those 4 HP. I can use Nameless Wood, and I've got 5 combat dice and 2 leadership. Probably going to roll 2 hits, and Nameless Wood means a dead mouth. and it's not, it's not like there's a Nazgul stack parked there that can effectively use Dread and Despair. There's one, yeah, there's one there. So even a Dread and Despair, I mean, 4 attacks and 2, I'm still likely to get 2 hits. Yeah, I'm. This is definitely a mistake. My opponent should have put. They're trying to be efficient, which I get. Um, they didn't want to be in a position of uh, occupying Helm's Deep and then me mustering into Edoras. But by trying to avoid that, they put themselves in a position where I can definitely just kill the mouth, which I'm fairly certain I will just try. Yeah, so attack mouth, of course. Yeah, and I'm gonna play Nameless Wood almost certainly. Maybe Ent's Rage. No, Nameless Wood. Nameless Wood is definitely better here. My opponent plays a shadow character card. Yeah, name. I'm. Yeah, so I play. And they play their terrible. Fine. So they're gonna do some damage back to me, but like, yeah, I just roll 2 hits in the combat roll, and that's a total of 4, and that is a dead mouth. My opponent gets 2 back. Sure, but do I really care? I'm just gonna play Riders with Aiden and reinforce those 2 hit points. Yeah, and plus get another leader. That seems good. That seems really good. So my opponent flies the Nazgul over. Doesn't fly over the Witch King. I think that's probably a mistake. I think, like, yeah, I guess you're worried about um, Blade of Westerness or whatever. Like, you don't want to lose the Witch King to um, the Hobbit specific combat cards, but am I really going to give up Mithril Coat and Sting here? No. If I had Mithril Coat and Sting in hand, I would not be using it for its combat effect. Like I have no, there is no military victory threat for the free people on this board. Like this is going to be a shadow military, shadow corruption, or free people ring dunk, much as as forlorn as that hope seems to be. Like there is no military threat, so I am definitely going to use Mithril Coat and Sting to try to support my trek up Mount Doom if I had it. I wouldn't be using it to try to kill the Witch King. So I think the Witch King should be in Helm's Deep right now, cycling cards, rather than off in South Rune, hanging out with some Easterlings. All right, well, that is what it is. Okay, so I draw another card. Okay, so now I have 3 Daring Defiances and an Ents Rage. So yeah, I mean, Helm's Deep has a big army parked on top of it, but 3 Daring Defiances is pretty good. Uh, essentially, and sacrificing 1 uh, Hobbit leadership to cancel a shadow card is awesome. Yeah, so they attack, they play a shadow card. I'm definitely going to play Daring Defiance here. Yep. They play a Relentless Assault. And yeah, I cancel it. And oh, geez. I forgot about this. That is brutal. I mean, 5 hits on natural 6s. Oh boy. That is frustrating. I mean, this game is just lost, right? um, and I do no hits back. Okay, so the probability of Shadow getting 5 hits there and Free getting 0 is probably a fraction of a percent. I could run the actual numbers, but like that is unlikely. I'm I am sure I was pretty frustrated. And my opponent, and then I don't even bother to play it during Defiance. Yeah, why would I? Like, yeah, that's great. I was fine. So I just die. And I again roll no hits back. So wow. So that 6 hit point, 3 leadership Gondor army with a bunch of really good cards to play in the form of Daring Defiances and Ents Rage um, managed to do 1 downgrade worth of damage to that army, which is that's yeah. So now not only is the Fellowship in massive corruption trouble, it's also like Shadow now only needs 3 victory points, and that army in Helm's Deep is just like just walk it up to Lorien and win the game, right? Like if I'd done some damage to it, I'd have a little more chance of surviving. But like, yeah, I guess I have a power too great, but still, like that's yeah, yeah. So okay, so they're just doing exactly that. All right, probably very happy to see Athelos. Probably very happy to see Thranduil. Given, I mean, Celeborn would be a little better, but uh, given where the Witch King is, like Dale and Woodland Realm are probably going to be part of that 10th victor. No, no. What am I talking about? My opponent already has 8. I said 7. They have 8. They have Edoras and Pelargir and Helm. Yeah, they have all of Rohan and all of Gondor. So they have 8. So Dale doesn't matter. again, why the Witch King should not be up there. The Witch King should be with that army down in Helm's Deep. FSP okay question mark. Yeah, they're not doing great. Oh, okay. Well, my opponent has a bad roll, which is really what I needed to have a chance. That's only 2 attacks because the mouth is dead. If the mouth had been dead, this is 3 attacks, potentially game winning in Lorien. But because the mouth is dead, it's 1 sea dice attack and 1 ring. I mean, maybe they have ring raise at this point, or maybe they have. No, they played Fighting Urukai for the cycle. Another reason that the Witch King should be with that army in case you draw ground. All right, so I hide. I'm almost certainly not moving. Yeah. What? Yeah. That additional sea dice is almost certainly getting spent on Athlos or I will go alone. I will go alone would be a great use here because then I get the 1 heal for the Hobbit, and then those 0 reveals um, become awesome. Oh, my my opponent tries to use the mouth ability, forgetting the mouth is dead. And I remind him that I killed him. Okay, so they do have ring raise. All right, so definitely they have enough dice to win. I mean, even with a power 2 great in play, like I guess it depends on if they have a strategy army card to discard, but they go looking for a character card. Interesting. And I muster Lorien. Yeah, why not? Okay, so they start mustering up in North Rune. I guess my opponent at this point thinks to themselves like, yeah, Lorien is now basically untakeable. So I'm gonna go for Woodland Realm. Why do I play Athelos here? I mean, yeah, I need the healing, but isn't I Will Go Alone objectively better to get down to Golem and make those 0 reveals? Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great roll. Happy to get 2 heal back from Athelos. But I feel like that should have been I Will Go Alone, not Athelos. All right, whatever. I muster up in Woodland Realm. Sure, yeah. And the Shadow Army moves out towards the dew line. There is another way. I needed healing cards, and I got them. That's Athelos, and there is another way in back-to-back turns. Is exactly what the Fellowship needed here to have a chance. Wow. And so I have to play as if my opponent has Day Without Dawn, so I move. I get a 0. Okay. Should have played I Will Go Alone. Because that would have been way better. And then I could have just moved the Fellowship. And I could have played There Is Another Way as my first action here, and then had, yeah, okay. I definitely should have used I Will Go Alone instead of Athlos. That I didn't know I was going to draw There Is Another Way, but like I already had thought through, at least in hindsight here, thought through the impact of the 0 reveals, and that ended up being what I drew. They play Day Without Dawn. Yeah, that's crippling. Imagine how. I mean, I'm not in a good position, but I would be in a much better position if I were not revealed right now because I had Gollum as my guide. I recruited to Woodland Realm again. Sure, fine. My opponent goes for Erebor. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's possible I'm holding Dane, but I'm not. So yeah, my opponent just attacks Erebor. So they use Grond to attack Erebor. Yeah, I mean this should be game winning, right? Like Grond with 11 HP against 6 HP, 4 leadership against 1. And my cards aren't great. I don't have. If I had a companion up there, those Daring Defiances would be great, but I don't. And so I've got 1 Valor that's playable, a Heroic Death that's playable, but I almost certainly want that for the healing. And I guess I have power. I have power time up, but I don't have great cards for defense here. Guess let's see what happens. So they start with a Dread and Despair. Why? I mean, I can't play a card. Like, why not? I guess I don't know what their strategy cards are, but like, certainly we haven't seen all the Deadly Strifes. We haven't seen all the Desperate Battles, and they're pretty deep into their deck. All right, so they get 1 hit from forfeiting 3. I get 1 back. We both take a casualty. They press. They play a strategy card. I play a strategy card. Then it's Desperate Battle. Yeah. Okay. So So with that Grand play, that Desperate Battle should have been the first card. When you know I can't play a card because now, yeah. So Power of Tom Bombadil blocks prevents that 5 from being a hit. And my opponent only gets 1 hit from that Desperate Battle, and I get 3 back. Yeah, yeah. So it's gone from 11 HP against 6 to now 7 HP against 4. Um, this is a better position for the free people than they might have been in if those cards had been played in a different order. Okay, so Palantir is played. Cruel as Death. My opponent only gets 1 hit. Um, yeah, I only get 1 back, but I'm down to 3. They're down to 6, and they'd have to keep pressing here. I mean, but of course you don't need to press. You can just use those additional. I mean, at the end of the day, like this is still 6 HP against 3 HP is a good place for Shadow to be, um, and with 4 attacks left, or to try to just take Erebor and win the game. Um, what am I? I'm having a quick think. What am I thinking about here? What am I thinking about? I don't know. Okay, I was considering something. Maybe moving the elves to Withered Heath. That's about the only thing with the H dice. That's the only thing that would really be worth thinking about here. Like you can't do anything with the North. They're still at all the way up on the political track. My opponent draws a character card. Why? Why not just win? Like, and if you're gonna, why not draw a strategy card? So they attack Erebor, play a character card. I do use. Wow, that must have been a painful thing to do to play that heroic death. And they play a Silder. Why not? Well, I guess there's a lot of eyes in there. But if you play a Silder and pull a 3 or a 2, I mean, even if you pull a 0 or a -2, or like, still take those out of the. If you draw, if you pull Shelob, you might just win outright. Yeah, I don't know about that. Right. So my opponent gets 2 hits. I get 2 back. Um, I can take my leader as a casualty, and now it's 2 HP versus 3 HP. So yeah, okay, that is what I was thinking about. Then I moved out to Withered Heath, but shouldn't I have done if I was gonna do it? Shouldn't I have done it last round just in case this exact thing happened? Because then I could have used if I'd moved out to Withered Heath now or like the last turn, the previous turn when I was clearly thinking about it. Um, I would have been in a position to attack the Witch King right now and use probably a Valor and go for the kill. Instead, like I've still left my opponent the opportunity to. I mean, they can fly the Witch King away here, or they can just go for the win. Oh, I take everybody. That's bold. That's bold. Okay, so they fly away. Yeah. So the siege of Erebor has been broken, but I roll no hits. Okay. I'm very fortunate that my opponent rolled no hits back there. Yeah. Huh. Uh, the it, the Fellowship, the armies of the Free People of Middle Earth continue like have somehow kept um stayed alive. Uh, my opponent tries to move to Dimmeldale and said shows me a card. Um, groups up in Dimmeldale. Okay. Um, well, I guess by showing me that card, they showed me they don't have an army card. So the reason they didn't move into Lorien is because they couldn't. Uh, draw, help, and look for axe and bow. Man, wouldn't it be nice to be at Gollum right now? I hide, sure. My opponent plays Orcs Multiplying again. We have a little joke about the fact that he'd already revealed the card to me. Yeah, I mean, I guess you do you really need those reinforcements? Maybe. Why not just try Lorien for? I guess maybe they still can't remove the card in Lorien. I move. Yeah, that's great. Getting an eye there is great. Losing a Hobbit to an eye is great, but again, like, yeah, I don't think that Hobbit even should have been in the Fellowship. I think I Will Go Alone should have been played a long time ago. My opponent plays Morgul Wound, fine, yeah. Let's take a look at that. I mean, there's a chance. It's not a good chance, but there are, still some twos, some zeros in there. I pass. Yeah, so my opponent's going for Woodland Realm again here. What do? I move into Dale. Why do I do that? I move into what am I doing? Okay, so I move everything into Dale. Why? Is that actually good? Why not just move back into Woodland Realm? I guess I can I can and should assume that my opponent is going to move into Carrick and attack Old Forest Road. So like the North with one of those H dice will be at war. But wouldn't it be better to have Woodland Realm protected? Why didn't I protect Woodland Realm there? I'm using the elves to still protect Erebor, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. This is all okay. So they move into Carrick, yeah, move towards Old Forest Road. And I pass. Nah, why? All right, whatever. They attack Old Forest Road, they cycle a card, yeah. I get a hit back, maybe important. And then I move all those elves back into Woodland Realm. And I move out of Lorien, headed for Rohan. Very interesting. Okay, but can't my opponent just take Erebor still? They still have 3 attacks. Um, wouldn't it? What was I doing? Wouldn't it have been better to just use that H dice to move from Withered Heath, leave Erebor well enough alone, move from Withered Heath into Woodland Realm, and then use the other H to muster into Woodland Realm? Although maybe I was planning on this Rohan thing, but I still have to survive this turn. Like even if that Elven army goes and liberates something in Rohan, you know, my opponent could still win this turn. All right, whatever. They attack Woodland Realm. I think that's a mistake. Why not go to Dale and go to Erebor? Like the you're taking on 7 HP instead of maximum 5, maybe less, right? If you get hits in Dale and another opportunity to cycle. I think this should have been an attack into Erebor. I play Ents. Why? Oh, another reason to go to Erebor. I am about to Weeproof the Swifter Gandalf into Woodland Realm. So I'm spending this Ents. But if I'm going down to relieve Rohan with these elves, why not keep that Ents card? I guess on the outside shot that I kill um, Saruman here, there is no leadership in Woodland Realm because those 2 Isengard elites no longer matter. I only get 2. Yeah. Um, and yeah, I Daring Defiance into Woodland Realm, and my opponent attacks in Woodland Realm. Yeah, my this Shadow should have been going after um, Erebor here, because Gandalf couldn't have made it all the way to Erebor with Reprove the Swifter. We prove the Swifter. I play no quarter. Yeah, why not? Black Breath, playable, but doesn't matter. Oh no, because they have 2 leader. They have 2 leadership. So yeah, um, still works. Fine. And my opponent gets 2 hits, and I get 2 back. So not a great start for the free people, but they're still probably fine. So they press and draw. I think that's a mistake. Okay, so given that my opponent still had a C dice left here, they probably should have stopped after that first round of combat and then used the C dice with still having 2 leadership and then pressed down if they were going to do it. So they play Onslaught. Wow. And I only get 1 hit back. So I mean, Onslaught is a great card for killing Gandalf. And yeah, they just take all 4. Seems good. And they get 3 hits. Oh. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm just dead, right? And I play no card. And they get no hits. Wow. I am very lucky to have not lost the game right there. Okay, I mean, Fellowship's still alive. Uh Yeah, this is a wild game. Indeed, it is. Especially because like there's a real chance that I mean, yeah, Gandalf is gonna they're gonna take Woodland Realm, and Gandalf is gonna die. But am I gonna liberate? That is not a good roll for a shadow. That is only one attack. So yeah, they can take Woodland Realm here, but they then can't even threaten Dale. Like all Ringwraiths Abroad is gone. Black Captain Command is gone. Uh, Grand is gone. Fighting Urukai is gone. So I know for a fact that my opponent has exactly one attack here, and I have five. So I mean, probably gonna just hide the Fellowship and then use those four attacks to go liberate Heteros, right? And have a muster. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I had Thranduil. I forgot. That's so lucky. Wow. Okay. I mean, it was frustrating to be free people early in the game. It's probably pretty frustrating to be Shadow right now because they could have won. They should have won last. Like that. If the dice had cooperated, they would have won last turn. And now, uh, okay, they have a forward recruiting card. That's good. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just definitely gonna go protect or go liberate Rohan. And I have no elves left, so I'm also thinking about where my opponent's other victory points might come from. So I'm sort of proactively defending Rivendell just in case. Sure, why not? My opponent musters into dual culture. Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, take take Western Net. Although in this case, maybe probably better to use a sea dice to move into Western Net and then use that H to recruit another elite in Western Net to be really sure about that take of Eteros. Because that move does that move into Troll Shaws really matter? Probably not. Yeah, I think slightly suboptimal for me there. My opponent upgrades in Orthanc. Yeah, thinking about they're clearly planning a retake next turn. I hide. They play on and on. They went sure, and yeah. Now I have to assume that A dice will kill Gandalf. So I like, and I'm not even sure I don't want to move against those three eyes because that makes those that makes the eyes deadly. So I'm gonna probably delay a turn. I hid, so I'm not gonna take automatic corruption. I attack Eteros. I get a hit. Yeah, great. The They don't kill Gandalf. They probably should have taken a swing at Gandalf there, just to reduce my dice count. Mirror of Galadriel. What a perfect card to draw with Woodland Realm under threat. A Daylight and a Heroic Death. If you in this position, if you had asked me what cards I wanted to draw, those would have been pretty close. I mean, Bilbo Song would be ideal, um, but those are pretty good as well. Uh, okay, so my opponent has 3 attacks. Wow. I mean, I could go get Helm's Deep here. Wow. Oh, I hadn't rolled yet. Okay. Probably, almost certainly. I mean, I've seen Day Without Dawn at this point, but moving for sure. Yeah. An eye. So we've seen Lure, we've seen Morgulwood, but we haven't seen Breaking yet. And there are only 2 cards left in the deck. So, I mean, I'm probably just dead. No, they don't have it. Wow. And so my opponent is coming down to retake Eteros, but that army is not big enough. Like I have 3 musters. Yeah, muster. Why did I muster into Western? Why not just muster elites? Like that army is probably happy to group up and fold. I wanted the leader. Or no, I hmm, that that should have just been. That doesn't make sense. That should have just been an elite. They attack into Western net. Probably a mistake. That should have just been a group up and fold. I had Aomar. Yeah. Yeah. So wouldn't it be? I mean, that Shadow Army is 6 HP and mine is 7 with 2 leadership. But wouldn't it be better if it was 8 with 2 leadership? Hmm. Dreadful spells on Woodland Realm. 2 hits. Yeah, so Gandalf is dead. But my opponent doesn't have my opponent doesn't have enough dice to win this turn. I've only got 1 attack left. But I mean, yeah, I guess that card is good, but wouldn't it have been better as a cycle to try to go get breaking to force me to use a ring so that you have another attack? Hmm. Interesting. I muster again an Edoras. Sure, why not? Okay, that's a pretty big mistake by me. Because now if my opponent attacks and cycles a character card, we haven't seen breaking, right? Yeah, we haven't seen. No, we have seen breaking. I just forgot. Okay, so never mind. But there are no cards that damage me, so that is fine. That is fine. There's no rush um to hide the fellowship. Um, they're still mustering. Did you really? Do you need an extra elite up there to kill to win? I guess. Um, they go no card, and I play daylight. Sure. And they press. I play heroic death, and I have another leader to take. Okay, so forget what I said about not putting the extra lead in there. They needed it. They rolled 2 hits, so I do have to take Gandalf there. Fine. And now they have their leadership, so I'm probably doomed, but I'm sure I play my heroic death here again. But yeah. Remembers they have rerolls, but only gets the 1 hit. And so miraculously, Woodland Realm is still alive. What in the world? Uh and the Fellowship is on 11 corruption, 1 step from order. This is an exciting game, guys. I lose my Gandalf dice. I got 1 move, which is really all I needed. My opponent plays Give It to Us. Man, it would be so great if the Fellowship was at 10 corruption instead of 11 corruption here. Because as it currently stands, like, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles that kill the Fellowship and only 3 that it doesn't die. And if the Fellowship had 1 less corruption, it would be 5 tiles that win and 6 tiles that lose. I'm sure I just move here, right? Like, no. I muster them north. Am I playing for extra turns? There's no way. Do I really think I'm going to get extra turns here? I mean, my opponent is definitely going to take Woodland Realm and could then just... They don't even need Edoras. They could just take Dale or Erebor. But I did draw Dane. Is that going to become relevant? Okay, so they just absolutely annihilate Woodland Realm. It's about time. Like, Woodland Realm has held on for an insane amount of time. I reinforce in Dale. They attack Erebor from Iron Hills. Fine. I pass. And they're going to go up to Iron Hills. Okay, so this is quite an interesting decision point. Do I think... Does playing Dane make sense here? If I play Dane, they're just going to attack into Dale. And Dale is probably not going to hold. I mean, yeah, I get the first round bonus, but I don't think that matters. Like, that's still 7 HP with full leadership against 5 HP with 1 leadership. I'd probably just move here and just cross my fingers. Yeah, I'm just gonna take my 3 out of 11 and accept my fate. And I pull a blue tile. Wow. I mean, it is better to be lucky than good, I suppose. I am shocked that I won this one. Yeah, I really didn't remember this game at all. I mean, I knew I won it, because I knew I went 2-0 in this, but man, it really did not look like I was going to. Lots to chew on in this game. I think there's a lot of... I made a bunch of mistakes. My opponent made a bunch of mistakes. There was a bunch of room for optimization here. A really interesting game. I hope everybody enjoyed this one. Let me know if, I made some slight adjustments to like screen resolution and things like that. I'm going to be pivoting to a more professional casting setup, courtesy of uh, uh, some of the other casters out there. Thank you to Strider656 and Day for sharing some of their OBS setups that will help with a bunch of the legibility of the board and the dice and things like that um, in future casts. But thank you to everybody who's reached out with comments so far about how to make some minor tweaks um, to to improve, what I'm able to put out on YouTube. So thanks again to everybody who made it this far. This ended up being a long cast. I mean, it was a long game. It's a 14 turn game, um, and a pretty interesting one. Yeah. Thanks for coming along for the ride, everybody. See you next time.